Hey folks, welcome back. I'm going to talk about an issue that I had with the 7.3 Powerstroke. It wasn't this 2002, but it was a different 2001, and I want to talk about the symptoms that it had and what we end up finding and how I kind of got burned. Well, I wouldn't say kind of. I did get burned on it. And then we're going to talk about the different ways to prevent, because if I got burned, that means anybody who doesn't always do this for a living, because, I do this for the living, and I lost a lot of money on that one. Anyway, so let's get to it. We'll talk about, the symptoms, what we had when that pickup came in, and this, that, and the other, and we'll go from there. Okay, so sometimes I might refer, and say, this pickup did this or whatever like that. It's not this pickup, but we're just using this as a point of reference and to show, basically to show you the parts. I can show you the ICP sensor and all that kind of stuff, which had a lot to do with what we have going on. Okay, that pickup had an engine miss and a rough idle when it first came in. We had a lot of weak injectors. A couple of them we tried to do the shimming because they wanted to try to save some money, and was able to get some of them back up closer to spec. I don't recommend doing shimming. If you have any of those type of issues, you should replace the injectors and replace them all, get them from a really reputable place, because along with that, we also had the problem where we ended up replacing I think 2 or 3, I can't remember for sure, 2 or 3 injectors, and getting some remanufactured injectors, and 2 of them ended up being, no, 1 of them ended up being bad. No, I believe it was 2 of them. Yeah, it was this last year, so that's the reason I should have did this video a lot sooner. But last year, it was two of them were bad, and I had to replace them again, 2 out of the 3. Which is where I basically was burned the first time. It's like, if you're going to do anything with injectors, number 1, don't do the shimming. If you're not sure about what that is, there's videos on how to do it. If you want to spend a lot of time trying to tinker around with that on your own rig or whatever, but when you're in a shop setting like I am, it's not worth it. It's going to end up being a lot cheaper, for my customers to just replace the injectors and go from there. Okay, so after and kind of before I figured out about the 2 injectors that were bad, that were new, we got rid of the rough idle. We got rid of the miss, except we had a miss, and that pickup this one's a 6-speed manual, but that other one was an automatic, and at light throttle, well, let's talk about this first. At heavy throttle, basically just, all the way up to, 70 miles an hour, you wouldn't really notice anything. Just driving around, you wouldn't notice nothing. A light throttle, you start approaching 35, 40, and about 40 miles an hour, almost 45 miles an hour, depending on, how much you're on the throttle, it would shift into overdrive, 4th gear. And when it would do that, that's when you would track the miss down. So I, was doing other troubleshooting, and I started troubleshooting in, finding out what the injection control pressure actually is. I mean, that's what you got your ICP injection control sensor right here, and then down below here, because the high pressure oil pump is down below this. This is a fuel bowl, and the IPR valve, injection pressure regulator, it's what actually regulates the pressure, because that pump down inside of there is capable of producing around 3,000 psi, and it wants to produce 3,000 psi no matter what, but the IPR is what adjusts it and lets the pressure go to the oil rails on each side of the bank for the injectors for what it needs, based on whether it's idling, cruising down the highway, or you're at full throttle, pulling a hill or whatnot. So one of the things was that I did find on that pickup, in between all of this troubleshooting, was I did unplug the ICP sensor You know, it just lifts up here and unplugs like that. Oh, I guess I didn't get it. There we go. Okay, see how it's nice and dry, nothing going on. Well, a lot of times what happens with these ICP sensors is they start leaking oil internally here, and you unplug this and you get oil all over, you know, inside this plug. And so when you replace the ICP sensor, you should replace this plug along with it, which is what we did. It wasn't causing us any issues because that, you know, that didn't fix our problem. I didn't think it was going to, but when we got in here and I was doing troubleshooting, I could never get any more than 16 psi out of the high pressure oil pump. So sometimes it was logging a code, the P1211, you know, I'll put it in the white words here on the deal when I look it up or whatever. It's something about the injection compressor or pressure above or below desired, or I mean something like that. So it just wouldn't, you know. And we had been through all the injectors, and I air tested the old, because you can air test these things just like you can the 6 liters, and we had no leaks in any of the injectors, because that will be a problem, and it's something you have to diagnose if you've got actual low pressure, you know, from your pump. I was only just relying on the computer, the scan tool, in monitoring that pressure. That's where I got burned on this pickup. Well, that pickup, not this pickup. And we're going to talk about exactly how that happened. Okay, so after, when I was on that pickup during the troubleshooting and process, and this is, you know, this is many hours of, you know, that pickup really challenged me a lot. You know, put on a new pigtail for the ICP sensor, and you know, plugged it in. We, you know, like I said, I didn't think that was going to fix our problem, but it was a problem that we needed to fix because of the oil leaking internally on the ICP sensor. It just happened to be that I just all of a sudden realized there was a lot of extra wire not normally on this deal, because you can see that this comes out here and it joins into this loom right here, which is also into this loom. I can't remember if that's I think that's an oil temp sensor right there, and then it, you know, goes back, and then it joins in with this other bigger loom, which, you know, has more stuff. This loom actually ends up going back down to the IPR, and then, you know, goes back off this way to go through to the ECM. Started noticing this had a lot of extra wire, and I wasn't sure what was going on. And buried way down inside, inside of there, was this dadgum thing. And then it had wires, you know, like, I don't remember where this wire went. It might have been a ground, and then this wire probably went over there, I think, into that. That's your boost sensor. Some people call it a map sensor, but it really measures your boost pressure. You can see this hose going right into the intake Y pipe, basically, whatever. Yeah, so I pulled this thing all the way out, and how this was you would unplug the ICP sensor, plug in this new harness right here, okay, and then you'd go to the other side, and you can see how that will fit this plug into here. I'm trying to do this one-handed. Cell phone call just came in too. Hopefully I don't screw anything up, but anyways, you get the idea. It plugged into there like that, and then, you know, like I said, this wire I think went over, joined in with a wire in here, and I think this other one was a ground. I cannot recall. Doesn't matter, because don't put one of these things in here. And this was all buried down inside there. I didn't notice it. Oh, we got to back up a little bit. So when I had the low pressure on the scanner, about 16 psi, 1600 psi, and no leaks out of anything, I replaced the high pressure oil pump. Yeah, I was like, well, this pump cannot create the pressure that we need. And I put a new high pressure oil pump, and, you know, obviously that didn't fix our problem. So that's when I started looking more closely, and then I realized about this particular thing. So right now, let's just go ahead and get this off, because I don't want it on this pickup. And we'll plug this back in. Okay, pull this thing out because it's junk. Okay, so I don't really know what this is. It's some kind of an aftermarket module. The only thing I can see that you can see that it said 99 to 2003 Ford 7.3. I can't see a model number. I don't really know a make or nothing like that. You know, manufactured. You can see when it was made, 2009. It was a while ago. This was probably an early point of some kind of a chip, and I can tell you what it was doing, but I can't tell you really what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to probably manipulate the ICP sensor reading to probably get you more. I don't know. I really don't understand what it would be for. But that's what it was doing, is it was manipulating as soon as I unplugged and got this module out of there and plugged the ICP sensor back in like it was supposed to, boom, I had like 2,700 PSI. Now that didn't fix the problem. We still had our miss at 45 miles an hour as soon as that thing shifted into overdrive, fourth gear, and at light throttle, you could feel the miss. You could feel it and hear it. Until about 55 or 60, and then the RPMs were up enough. That was about 1,400 RPM, I think, is where it would make that shift point, 1,500 maybe. And then it would go, you know, as soon as you get up a little bit, the RPMs were up in the 18, and you wouldn't feel the miss anymore. So, which is, you know, it's what happens on these things a lot, is there's certain times you can feel a miss and certain times you can't, because a lot of times they're just kind of rough and noisy, as they are when they're running good. So anyways, taking this thing out fixed that problem. Had I have found this earlier, I wouldn't have had to replace the high pressure oil pump, which basically I had to, you know, eat the time on that. I worked out with the customer that they paid for the part, you know, because they're $800-900 bucks, just because I technically was sort of going in the right direction, you know, because let's say we were getting that actual low pressure like that, then you would replace the high pressure oil pump if it's not capable of producing the pressure that you need. But I pretty much, you know, all of the time, so much time troubleshooting and all that kind of stuff, I pretty much just had to eat all that and whatnot. But that's fair. That's just how it is with the shop. You know, if I charge them every bit of time that I actually put into that pickup when I was fixing it, I mean, it'd be well over just $3,000 just in labor, you know, and probably, you know, another $2,500 in parts by that time, all because of this stupid thing right here and the bad injector. So when we, you know, got the pressure up where it's supposed to be, you know, everything's fine up until we had the miss. That's when I started going back into and doing Pirtle readings and all that kind of stuff and I had two injectors that were, you know, they were defective new. They were working but not working good enough. Replaced those two injectors, thing ran flawlessly after that. And what did I learn on this? Well, for one thing, don't use any of this kind of stuff. Chips are not a bad idea. You know, with something like this, these are old. I wouldn't go too crazy on the chips unless you've really rebuilt everything. But the other thing is, and I don't even know if they sell these things anymore. Like I said, 2009. I mean, that's a while ago. It's almost 15 years. Give or take now. So the other thing I learned is you can't just rely on, when doing troubleshooting, if you're troubleshooting a high pressure oil pump that's not delivering the pressure it needs to, or you're not getting the pressure you need to inside of the for the injectors, you can't just rely on your computer and going it that way. You're actually going to need to get out and you know, get in here and check these with an actual gauge and find out what you're getting. And I'm going to plan on making a video that shows exactly how to do that, so that you can check and make sure that you're getting the proper high pressure oil in. You know, we're going to use a 5,000 pound gauge, and we're going to, you know, be able to check each oil rail. We're going to check right off the pump. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. Not doing that in this video. So if you're watching this video and wanting to know how we're going to do all that, we're going to show exactly. So basically, you know, check back on the channel or go ahead and subscribe or whatever. I don't usually just beg for people to do that. That's totally up to you, whether you like the content I'm putting out or not. It's totally up to you. I'm not going to ask you and tell you to subscribe, or I'm not going to tell you to like the video and all that kind of stuff. You can do all that stuff on your own if you do like the video. So anyways, we're going to show you exactly what fittings you need to buy, because they're going to be like ORB fittings to JIC, you know, pipe fitting. I mean, there's a couple different things. We're going to get all that put together and show exactly how to do that. That way, you know, in the future, if I get another one of these, I haven't got one since it had actual low pressure, but as soon as I get one, that's exactly how I'm going to troubleshoot it. Find out are we getting an actual low oil pressure, or do we have some stupid thing in here like this that's faking it out? And I don't know, you know, like I said, I don't know what this thing was supposed to do. I can just tell you what it was doing. And what it was doing was telling the ECM that, you know, we're only got 1,600 PSI going into the deal there. And, you know, it wasn't our problem, but it forced me to replace the high pressure oil pump. Well, it didn't force me, but I mean, I did replace the high pressure oil pump, and I learned that, you know, don't just rely on your electronics and computers and all that kind of stuff to be checking your oil pressure and fuel pressure and whatnot. You know, I can't remember if these things, if you can measure fuel pressure, low pressure anyways, I don't remember. So anyways, yeah, hopefully that kind of helps you out a little bit. You know, we're gonna just take this thing and put it into the round file and chuck it away and forget about it, and that's just the way she goes. But anyways, thanks for watching.